Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the Razorpay Unlock Growth webinar series. My name is Vedanarayan, and I take care of the startup and the SME business practice here at Razorpay, and I'm going to be your host for today. I hope all of you are doing fine. All of you are staying safe in whichever part of the country you're in whichever part of the world you're in. Today, we have a very interesting topic. We're going to look back on the year that was. It's been a pretty interesting year. It's been a roller coaster journey that all of us have been through as a country, as a nation. It's been the year of the pandemic, and it's brought about some very interesting winds of change to the entire digital ecosystem in the country. I have with me two very eminent and distinguished personalities who've joined the session. I have with me Shashank, who's the co-founder and CTO of Razorpay, a man who needs no introduction, one of India's most successful digital entrepreneurs. We fondly call him SHK at Razorpay, and he's my super boss. Welcome, SHK.
Hey, hi.
I also have with me a VC with a difference, one of India's upcoming and one of India's most popular venture capitalists, Aviral Bhatnagar, who runs Junior VC. Welcome, Aviral, and thanks for taking time.
Thanks, Ved. Thank you for having me, and thanks to the Razorpay team for pulling this together.
Sure.
Hi, Aviral. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Great to be here, and I'm going to start off by addressing the elephant in the room. Aviral, you run a VC fund which has a pretty unique name. Could you give us a sense of the genesis behind the name? Why do you call the company Junior VC?
Right. So it's not a VC fund. It's a platform that's democratizing startup conversations. I work with a VC fund called Venture Highway. That's my day job. This is something, in a way, we're trying to give back. I think what I observed a couple of years back when I started was that there was a gap in startup conversations in the Indian ecosystem, and there seemed to be a lack of empathy towards founders. That's what we were trying to solve. I think it's become a very nice platform. We even covered Razorpay. Shashank knows. I'd spoken to Harshal as well. So big fans of what you guys are doing. Essentially, we've scaled to like 100,000 monthly active users. We have multiple products like podcasts, concepts, stories, a newsletter that goes out every 2 weeks. And essentially, we are trying to simplify startup stories. So, people ask very simple questions. Why is Swiggy raising so much money even after being a loss-making company for so many years? That was a simple answer which wasn't available to me when I was looking for it a couple of years back. And we're trying to simplify that, democratize startup conversations, and we're really enjoying it as we go along. We are a 23-member team now at a Junior VC.
Very interesting. Wish you all the very best, Aviral. Sounds very interesting, the space that you're currently into. Now we're going to look back over the last 12 months. It's been an extremely interesting, intriguing last 12 months. The entire world has been through a lot, and we've seen kind of three distinct phases actually play out in the last 12 months. We saw an initial phase, and I know you love this word, Aviral, which is dislocation, a phase of dislocation where things became completely disjointed during the early part of the last financial year. And then we had a period of growth and then a period of stabilization. I'm going to come to both of you. I'm going to start with you first, SHK, to just take the audience through that entire phase of quote unquote dislocation when there was a lot of uncertainty. What were some of the observations that you had from your vantage position?
Right. So I think when this whole thing started, I think it was a huge shock moment for everyone involved in the ecosystem, right? Like the sudden lockdown that happened at night, I think kind of disrupted everything and how we knew life the way it is, right? So it was a huge shock moment. But very quickly, I think we figured that, this is the moment we really need to support the ecosystem as much as possible. And, whoever is trying to help in the ecosystem and whoever is crucial for, bringing us back to normalcy, right? Like we should provide as much support as possible, right? And that is where we saw that, the traditional way of doing business that is there, right? Which is, in the offline first mode and the way things typically happen, the way transactions typically happen, that will completely change. And we wanted ourselves to be ready in the long term toward that, right? As time went on, I think as 3-4 months went on, we did a lot of work with NGOs, with self-help groups, bring out various ways to, collect donations from people throughout the India, right? And we helped raise funds in tens of crores and help, divert it towards the groups who really need it, right? I think that went really well, and that gives us the confidence that as things move on, I think everyone will need to continue to uh, you know uh, come make peace with the new reality and figure out like how we proceed from there. So as and when like things started turning back and started coming back slowly, there were obviously sectors which were very positively affected, like education and gaming and all, right? But as things started coming back, I think we started seeing a lot of new age entrepreneurs and businesses, figuring out like how they can take advantage of digitization and take advantage of the whole technology movement that is happening in the country, to do things in a better way, in a new way, instead of going back to the old ways, right? And that is why we saw like tremendous amount of incoming surge of SME customers during the whole of last year, which was a very positive which was a very positive sign for us that how the whole ecosystem in India is moving towards digitization and really really moving to adopt technology in a big way, right? And the effects of pandemic is of course going to be like long lasting, and it's not something that is we'll forget anytime soon, that is there, right? But it's really pleasing to see like how a lot of businesses have come out on the other side with a very positive ray of hope. And as things have came back, a lot of them have now started seeing like good incoming business coming in, right? So that's how we have seen the whole thing, and we as Razorpay have been trying to support as much as possible, right? Through various means, that is there, through our education programs, through the webinars that we are conducting, to the different products that we have, right? Which is how do you operate in a remote first environment, from accepting revenue to getting customers to solving for your payroll and vendor payments, all of these things. How can you do these in a digital first environment, in a remote first environment, and do it in a simple way without jumping through lots of hoops itself, that is there.
Yeah, that's very interesting, SHK. And just going back to that period of dislocation, we at Razorpay actually did not see a reduction in our, I'm going to use a marketing jargon here, top of the funnel. We did not see any kind of reduction in our traffic or signups. But what we obviously did see a reduction, which was the reflection of the larger macroeconomic situation itself, was reduction in terms of businesses actually going live because of the entire uncertainty, because of just because of the macroeconomic situation. I'm going to come to you next, Aviral, for you to actually give us your perspectives. What were some of your observations during that initial phase of uncertainty, of that dislocation, as you call it?
Right. I think when the pandemic hit, I actually thought that we'll stop doing startup investments, because there was a situation where we were like, how are we going to invest in a company without having met them, right? If you would ask VCs, and I'm sure Shashank has worked with a lot of them, there was no situation earlier where you would say, I'd do an investment in a company without having ever met the founders, right? The answer was never. It was zero. And I remember this survey that I think NFX had done. The answer was literally zero. So I actually thought that, what are we going to do now, right? I think in the earlier days, we hoped that it would get better, let's say March last year, but by April, it was pretty clear that it was going to get worse, not better. A lot of portfolio companies that had physical exposure, if you look at direct to consumer brands or logistics companies, which had on ground exposure, they actually suffered the most, right? I think all businesses suffered. The ones with physical exposure suffered the most. Businesses with digital delivery, I think they were doing a little better than the ones that had physical exposure. And I think everyone was scared, especially, because I work with founders. You see the real rawness and the real fear, because you're like, how am I going to conserve cash? We need to extend runway, things like that. So I think in the early few months, there was a lot of uncertainty. There was no visibility on how regulations will pan out, when the lockdowns will be there, things like that. But I can't believe the situation we are in today based on those initial few months, right? I think it's probably the best time to be a founder today. In just 12 months, people are raising money very, very quickly and at large amounts of checks and valuations. And I think that is happening because everyone has realized that this digital trend that was happening, it's only going to go faster, right? So I think the pandemic has helped startups all across the board because all of them are using tech in some way. And I think if there is any company or any business that's building on technology or using technology, they've got tailwinds because of COVID. Some of our companies, they've grown 5x, 6x in 1 year, right? And you wouldn't have imagined that before COVID, because actually one of the businesses that I was talking about, it went to zero in April. So it's fantastic to see, how founders have bounced back. I think they're seeing, most of them are seeing tailwinds, and in general, I'm feeling positive about the net impact, at least in the ecosystem. But initially, it was quite scary.
That's very interesting. And you used that interesting word, tailwinds. And I'm just going to come to you, SHK. We've been observing some very strong tailwinds, headwinds, all kinds of winds, which have actually been pushing entrepreneurs, into the digital ecosystem. And one of the other things that we've also been noticing is a subtle but a very important and a significant shift in the makeup of the average SME entrepreneur and the kind of need states they have, which was extremely apparent during the growth phase, right? We spoke about dislocation, and during the growth phase, which you also briefly alluded to, we noticed a huge and a significant material shift in the mental makeup and the kind of demographic makeup of the average SME entrepreneur coming towards us. How did Razorpay actually respond to this? If you could give us a sense of that.
You're completely right? So, as we shifted working, from a remote first environment, right, without any physical presence, I think that is a huge mentality shift for everyone, right? And obviously, with this big shift, the people who are trying to run businesses, they have to change their makeup as well. You cannot work in the old mode that is possible, right? And that is why the founders or the entrepreneurs, who are coming out and running business today, one of course is like, people are like really way more resilient today, having gone through this whole thing itself that is there, right? But today we're also seeing that a lot of these entrepreneurs are willing to try out new products, right? New technologies that are coming in, right? They are more tech aware, is what I understand. They may not themselves be building technology, but they definitely understand the whole value that a technical ecosystem brings to the table, right? And they're aware of the different trends that are happening in the ecosystem. So few of the huge things that we are doing and we are observing in the ecosystem, right? There's a whole movement around the no code tools that is there. How can entrepreneurs and founders use easy to use to no code tools for doing things which would otherwise taken like lakhs of investments and multiple people to build those things out, right? Second, what we are observing is like, how can you how can you reach out to customers in tier 2, tier 3 cities and beyond, right? And for that, I think vernacular is a huge thing, right? So we are investing significantly ourselves to support, from a vernacular perspective. And we're seeing that if you are able to support and speak to people in their own language, right? Usually in all the flows, you will see like 15 to 25% higher conversion compared to, suppose, if you're only speaking English, right? And as we go deeper into tier 3 cities and rural areas and beyond, I think the whole trend around vernacular itself will become super more important, right? The last is what I would say is just the whole awareness around, internet and mobile that is there, right? That today you can run your whole business, right? Using simple things like WhatsApp and internet that is there, but also like all the things that businesses spend their time on, right? On the back end, which is, for managing their finances, for paying their vendors, managing payroll. They understand the value that, a lot of these things take unnecessary time, right? So, and in fact, a lot of businesses that are coming to us in the last 9 to 10 months, 2 out of 3 businesses have used payment for the first time, right? So we have seen almost 300% growth of SMEs that are coming onto the platform, but also that a lot of these SMEs are trying out digital payments completely for the first time, but now their mindset is such that they actually want to figure out how to leverage internet for growth instead of doing things the traditional way, right? So I see that, the businesses who are going to emerge out well on the other side of this whole thing are the ones who understand like how to use internet for distribution, how to use technology to be more efficient, to be more cost efficient, to be more bandwidth efficient, that is there, right? And how and scale things in a much better way.
It was very interesting. As you spoke about a couple of very interesting points. The makeup of the entrepreneur from 6-7 years ago, the average SME entrepreneur is probably close to your own makeup, right? Who the person who's very tech savvy, who understands the nitty-gritties of technology and wants to build a digital first business. The makeup of the new age SME entrepreneur is somebody who understands the importance of tech but doesn't quite understand the nitty-gritties of tech. And that's where Razorpay's no-code products, etc., have been a great enabler in allowing them to embrace digital payments, and also aligns with Razorpay's vision of democratizing access to digital payments. Some nuggets of wisdom coming in from both SHK and from Aviral. A quick shout out to the audience, just to reiterate the message that the team put out on the chat a few minutes back. Please take screenshots from the webinar. Capture all of the quotable quotes, the tweetable tweets that you take away from the webinar, and show us your love on social media. Use the hashtag #UnlockGrowth, tag us at Razorpay, and you stand a chance to win some exciting goodies. And that actually brings us to the first poll question. If I can ask the team to actually put that up, where we're going to understand from the audience what were some of the key tailwinds. We spoke about a bunch of different winds, tailwinds, headwinds, trends that helped businesses actually unlock growth in the year 2020, 2021. We'll give it a couple of seconds while the responses come in real time. It's a photo finish between option 1 and 2. Let's see who ends up winning. This is an interesting upgrade to the Zoom tool. I can see that there are real-time updates coming in, which is fairly interesting. Looks like we have a winner. It's coming in. It's probably option 2. It's a tie between option 1 and 2. Option 1 talks about how consumers have actually gravitated towards digital because of the pandemic itself. Option 2 actually talks about the work from home situation, which has actually brought about or necessitated an increase, a move towards digital. And we have seen that at Razorpay, right? We've seen a huge growth of SMEs from the edtech space, from the health tech space. People are stuck at home. They want ways and means to upskill themselves, to discover healthier and fitter versions of themselves. Aviral, I'm coming to you next. Just double clicking a little on the second phase that we spoke about, which is the phase of growth. What were some of the early indicators, some of the green shoots of hope, so to speak, that you saw, which helped you actually gauge the kind of growth that would actually come in phase 2?
I actually look at teams to see these early indicators, how they are operating, and they tend to be leading indicators of company performance. I think the first shift was how well people adapted to this new environment. It was initially a very unsettling, not being able to, go out and meet people and go to the office. But I think the best thing about being human is that we adapt and evolve very quickly, much faster than we'd expect. And I think that a lot of people actually found it being more productive at home, right? They could be with their families. They could do those things that they wanted to, like reading, cooking, things that they missed out on because they'd have to keep going to the office. So I think, team happiness and those indicators were the early, tailwinds, I would say. I was looking at those trends. I think, it depends on company to company what trends you look at. But if you look at consumer brands, I think the most important tailwind was the top of the funnel improving and the intent to purchase also improving, which I think started happening around June, July, when there was some more certainty of the lockdowns getting eased, them getting rolled back. I think that was a time, if memory serves me right. And I think that
you're right.
For B2B businesses, let's say like Razorpay, I think the intent to purchase a digital product that started going through the roof very, very early on, actually, even before I think the physical lockdowns happened. So I think there were three things, like I said, team is most important. The way they perform and the way they operate, that really was a big leading indicator of what's going to happen in the ecosystem. I was quite pleased to see teams respond well. I think consumer products started seeing top of the funnel, intent to purchase. People purchase when there is predictability, right? And that's what happened. And I think B2B businesses, they accelerated riding the coattails of these positive macro trends, and started closing online, not having to go feet on street. I think there was a great paradigm shift, especially for a lot of Indian businesses that are building for global markets, where you don't need to go to the buyer or customer and actually meet them to close, right? It suddenly increased the TAM, the target addressable market, for a lot of these B2B companies. So I think these were the early trends, and they've continued actually. Even till date, they just continue to accelerate. I think it's been a good positive for anyone in the tech ecosystem in India.
It's very interesting. And I think the big question mark that a lot of people were having during this period of growth was, would this last? Is this a flash in the pan, or would this continue? Would we see a new normal which was higher in terms of its level of digital acceptance than the previous normal, or would we go back to where we were before the pandemic? I'm going to come to you first, SHK. What were your thoughts, and what were some of the observations and the data points that you've had an opportunity to look at, which suggests that the new normal is actually much higher than what the previous normal was?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think there is no doubt at all that this is meant to last, right? In most of the industries, the trend that we have observed, right, a lot of new businesses that are coming online. I think the one of the biggest indicator that we see is that the average GMV per customer is trending well, right? It's trending upwards, and month on month we are seeing growth for these businesses. So instead of seeing any sort of decline as the whole ecosystem has come back, right, and people started moving around, we are still seeing people transacting on SMEs, right? And you can see like some of the trends on the D2C brands, the whole explosion of D2C brands that has happened in the country points towards the longevity of this trend. That okay, look, one thing is of course like this trend getting established, but I feel like it is just starting, right? And we'll probably see thousands of D2C brands getting established in the country in next few years. And beyond that as well, while let's take an example of edtech that is there, right? While we are hearing a lot of news of funding for the large, edtech startups that is there, there's a huge number of edtech companies who are signed up with us, right, for accepting payments in all kinds of niche areas, right? And even the local coaching institutions and everyone, have figured out how to start delivering their content remotely and online, right? And they can serve way more students. So how the ratio of teacher to student is in India, for example, right? So using these means, I think you can reach out to way more people, right? So that is why I feel like this trend is in a huge way, right? Is here to stay, right? And I feel like, I mean, the whole GMV growth that we are seeing for this business points towards a strong product market fit as well, right? So it is not just that, you are seeing your new customers coming in, right? You're also seeing that your existing customers are also coming online and preferring to use those modes. And once you have learned this mechanism, right, of transacting online and paying online and using digital tools, usually there is no going back, because the kind of gains that you realize on experiencing the product primes your mindset for the long term, that you're mostly going forward there and not in any sense going back. Also see the spends that we are seeing for the consumers, right? I see that a lot more consumers are now trying out and moving beyond Flipkart and Amazon, for example, right, and trying out different products and experimenting and searching for value instead of just blindly going for one simple thing or one simple brand that is there, right? And that explosion itself, I think, is really good. You don't just want like the large retailers to kind of grow, right? You want all the SMEs and startups to have equal stake in the ground and say, how can we leverage this trend and come out super positive on the other side?
That's very interesting, SHK. You spoke about how the per merchant GMV for the average SME customer has actually gone up. The other indicator, which we've also seen, and I'm sure you'll be able to attest to this, is the dreaded C word for any SaaS company, right? And many is the time when I've woken up in the night with a cold sweat, thinking about this dreaded C word, which is churn. And we've seen that actually go down significantly over the last year or so. We've seen retentions go up, which again point to a very strong product market fit for a lot of these SME businesses and startups which are coming up. Some very interesting observations there from SHK. I'm going to come to you next, Aviral. What have been some of your observations from your vantage point? Did you actually anticipate and expect this growth to continue? What were some of the observations you had?
Yeah, if you go back to April, I didn't expect any of this, honestly, right? I think the resilience of founders in India has been fantastic. I think that for me was like one of the biggest outcomes and wins from this, right? We've seen a lot of founders actually becoming a lot better through the pandemic. They say that you realize the character of someone through a difficult situation. It's not good situations that bring out character, and I think a lot of founders have demonstrated that. Um, I'll talk about a few things. The first is the amount of money that's coming into the equity markets. And by equity markets, you mean both public, which is stocks, and private, which is venture and PE, is incredible. I mean, I don't know if the party is going to last forever. I mean, I hope it does, but that kind of capital flow is insane. But I think fundamentally, if you look at a lot of businesses, you were mentioning retention, churn, we are seeing a lot more stickiness in businesses. We're seeing that there's a lot more adoption on digital tools. For example, teachers, I've invested in tech businesses, seeing teachers adopting to digital tools really fast, right? And they're understanding how to sell online, they're understanding how to build courses online, they're understanding how to communicate with students, build communities, right? And I'm seeing these kind of trends and engagement, which I didn't expect before, right? The amount of time that's being spent in classes, trying to teach kids. And if you look at edtech specifically, because Shashank mentioned it, if you come at and look at any other sector, D2C brands are up, and I think that trend is just going to go faster and faster. I think Razorpay is helping arm the rebels in some sense, away from the Amazons and Flipkarts of the world, where you're going direct to consumer. That's another trend I'm seeing. I think another trend is the amount of digitization that's happening for money flows, fintech in India. I joke with a lot of people, but there's a lot of truth. I think the US is a backward country when it comes to fintech, right? I know friends who go and sign physical checks even today with a pen, right? And it just doesn't make sense when you look at how India is operating, UPI flows, Paytm, and other such things, right? So in general, I feel the Indian ecosystem, there are a lot of trends that have got accelerated. I think COVID has been an accelerator more than anything, and I think that these trends stand testament to it. Pretty excited, and hoping the good times continue. I know one day the good times will stop, but at least for today, they're going in the right direction.
Interesting points there, Aviral. Just another quick point, just building on top of what SHK was saying earlier. At the highest possible level, we've seen some pretty interesting demographic trends. In the demographic makeup of the average entrepreneur, we're seeing a lot of freelancers, social media entrepreneurs actually gravitate towards us. We are seeing a lot of people who are first-time users of digital come forward and use digital payments, first-time users of digital in their company life cycle. And we are seeing a lot of businesses which have previously been physical, actually, who are looking to become omni-channel now, who want to become phygital, so to speak, and who are actually embracing digital. We're seeing a lot of these kinds of businesses coming in. With that context, SHK, what do you think are some of the key need states that the average SME entrepreneur has today?
I think the most important thing that is there, in this internet first and digital first environment, right? Everyone has to figure out how to build their own brand, right? Be it whether they are selling on Amazon and Flipkart, or whether they are selling directly or through a store, right? Building your own digital presence, which your customers can go and see and build their relationship with, right, is going to be extremely important. And I think we are seeing that a lot of D2C brands have done well, for example, right? A lot of edtech companies have done well, but that is a more of a broader phenomena and trend that going forward, right? How can you have emotional relationship and brand relationship with your customers? And you can only do that if you figure out like how you can establish your digital presence, your social presence. So we of course help a lot of companies create their own presence through the payment pages that we provide, and through the various website builders tools and e-commerce tools like Shopify and WooCommerce that we tie up with, right? And we have seen a significant spike in all these platforms traction that is there, right? I think second thing is that I think as we already discussed, one thing that there's no need to be afraid of technology in any way, right? Irrespective of whether you have used technology before or not. The tools that are available at an entrepreneur's disposal today are so many, right? And at such a lower cost that it's completely foolish to not take advantage of it, right? You really have to master the digitization thing that is there, and only figure out like, okay, how can you leverage that for growing your business itself, in a significant way, right? So the whole new SME persona that you're talking about, right, is one that we're seeing that, okay, like how do I move from physical to digital? How do I leverage internet for expansion, right? How do I leverage all the online tools and digital tools for cutting down on my cost and increasing my efficiency significantly, right? And these trends are pretty much going to stay as it is, and only going to see increase in presence. I'll touch base upon that the digital brand building presence is like super important. Whether you are doing it through your own website or through some other portal or through some other partner, uh, if you're able to establish your brand long term, then that gives a disproportionate advantage to you compared to anyone else in the ecosystem. And the power of that is something that most entrepreneurs are now getting to understand now, versus what used to be there earlier.
It's very interesting, SSK. And I'm just, thinking back, this is completely anecdotal. Just thinking back to some of the recent conversations I've had with some very interesting, SME personae who are using Razorpay. There was this freelancer who conducts online painting classes. I happen to be a customer myself. I'm very poor at painting, but I wanted to, upskill myself, and had actually ended up joining this person's course. He uses our payment pages and our payment links products. They absolutely love it. There was this customer who conducts online Urdu classes. They use our payment pages product, and she's actually come back and told me that they love Razorpay payment pages because it's a 2-in-1. It's like two mangoes in a single stone, because it helps them build a digital brand presence, and B, it's a payment collection engine. So it's like two things which get done in a single shot for that entrepreneur, which again is extremely interesting. And earlier entrepreneurs used to, want to set up a digital brand presence first, then they looked at digital payments. Now people are looking to skip a step. They're in a hurry to start receiving digital payments.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think one thing, one of the major trends that we have seen, right, that using our payment links product, now customers are able to send links via WhatsApp and SMS and email to customers at significant volumes, right? So every business that now signs up with us, we see that almost like 30 to 40% of business signing up with us are using payment links first on the get-go, right, and sending like 5-10 links to start with in a week or 2 weeks, and then scaling from there, right? So at the moment they start hitting like 50 or 100 payments, then they need to start looking at, okay, how do I establish a digital presence through my own store or whatever mechanism that is there, right? And that is where something like payment pages play a huge role. And also all the tools that are already available, like whether it's Shopify or WooCommerce or whatever, they play a huge role in helping you scale beyond the initial product market fit in a significant way.
Yep. So payment links, payment pages essentially have lowered the inertia bar, so to speak, for a lot of these businesses to embrace digital payments. And just on that topic, I was talking to this other SME customer who does astrology consulting, and who used to receive her payments purely by cash. It was a in-person business, but because their customers wanted to pay, they're not comfortable paying using cash, she started moving to Razorpay payment links. A case in point of a previously physical business embracing the digital bandwagon because of tailwinds which have been powered from the end consumer, so to speak. That's enough about the past over the last 12 months. That's history. Now let's look ahead. Let's do a little bit of crystal ball gazing, so to speak. Aviral, I'm going to come to you. Before I do that, a quick shout out to the audience. Do capture all of the quotable quotes, your takeaways from the webinar here, and put it up on social media, on Twitter. Use the hashtag unlock growth and tag us at Razorpay, and you stand a chance to win some very exciting goodies. And this might also be a good point for us to look at our second poll question before we come to you, Aviral. Yeah, if you can just hold on for a few seconds. If I can request the team to put up the second poll question, please. Just realized I'm on mute. I'm so sorry. And looks like it's going to be a close photo finish again between options 1 and 2 in terms of the key things that an SME needs to focus on as they look ahead to the next year. building a digital brand presence and understanding the world of digital marketing. We have a winner. It's understanding the world of digital marketing, followed closely by building a digital brand presence. And I can actually just attest to this. I interact with a lot of SMEs and startups in various TIE chapters, India SME Forum with the Government of India, etc. And one consistent point of feedback that I often hear is that they understand the various aspects of digital marketing fairly well, but what they struggle with understanding is knowing for their dhanda, for their business, what needs to be the number one priority. I'm just building on top of option 2, which was highlighted by the audience. Thank you so much for the second poll question. That was pretty interesting. Now coming to you, Aviral, looking ahead to the next year, and obviously the broader context is the T-Rex in the room is the fact that the cases are increasing again in the country. Do you have a sense of deja vu? What can the ecosystem expect as we look ahead?
I'll take the thread that we just ended with, and then I'll
probably sure, please.
About it. I think there are two trends that are happening and that they will continue. The first, I call it the unbundling of the organization. And the second is the importance of social capital, right? And I think Shashank and you both alluded to the fact that the brand is important. I think that as money becomes cheap and easier to access, your social capital becomes the key differentiator for you, right? So I'll talk about both. Unbundling of the organization, if you go back 400 years, 500 years, there was a renaissance where people were individual creators and they used to make money like that, right? If you look at the organization, that's a 200-year phenomenon. We've never been organized in large organizations before. The Industrial Revolution just pushed people to be more efficient, and the 9-to-5 job got created because of that. I think that is all going to go away in the next 5 to 10 years. I'm not saying that big organizations won't exist. I just think that people will start realizing that we don't need to be in a large organization to make money. And what that means is the organization got created because the cost of transaction was very high between people as well as outside the organization, right? Shashank and you can trust each other because you are at Razorpay, so you know that he will do what he said. Now with tools like Razorpay or other digital tools, you know that the other person can be trusted, right? So trust has got created because of the internet, and I think that will enable individuals to run businesses. You were mentioning teachers, but there's so many other individual entrepreneurs who will start and they will leave large organizations to run their own show, right? And I think that's one, the unbundling of the organization. I think the second trend is the importance of social capital. People will start realizing that their presence and the stories they tell, the engagement they do with their communities, that's going to build reputation as well as revenue, right? So I'm not sure if you guys come across this, but I'm hearing a lot about how communities are important. I think that's in fact the reason why you guys are doing this webinar, right? Continue to engage with your customers is the best way to have better relationships with your customers rather than just having one touch point when you interact. So the importance of social capital, very few people are realizing it, but I think it's just going to become bigger and bigger. People who have social influence. I just point to Elon Musk, right? He's pushed Tesla to the stratosphere. I even joked on Twitter, which got a lot of people pissed off, which is Elon Musk is an influencer who incidentally sells cars, right? I look at it that way, and I think a lot of these larger than life people, they will leverage social capital to convert it into money. So I think these are the two trends that I'm seeing, and they're broad trends. They will happen everywhere. So unbundling of organizations will create opportunities, and I think everything will get socialized in some sense. Recruiting, teaching, finance, you'll see these social layers. And coming to your question on cases, yeah, there is a sense of deja vu. I think it's even worse. I mean, the analysis that I had done, the case load is more aggressive, but I think we are better prepared to handle it this time. I think the vaccinations will help bring down the rate, hopefully, and how people respond to this new situation. I think they know what to do, right? I don't think we can afford another lockdown. I've seen what happens in a lockdown. Economically, it's very harsh. I think the government will in general be more careful. I think people know how to respond. And I think businesses are better prepared this time. How to handle it, how to coordinate with people at home. We have all the infrastructure set up. So I think from an economic standpoint, it won't hurt as much as it did the last time. Again, I'd said that we'll probably just be done after 1,000 cases, and here we are. So I don't want to, crystal ball so much, but I think that will happen. I just hope that this COVID variant is not that aggressive from a mortality standpoint. It hurts people more. I'm hearing that it's more virulent but less strong. So from a health standpoint, I think also this will probably be better. So in general, I'm more optimistic than the last time. It's not so much deja vu.
Yeah, thanks for that, Aviral. Before I come to SHK with your predictions for the next 12 months, and then we'll open it up for audience Q&A. I'm just going to touch upon an interesting point that you made, Aviral, on unlocking social capital. And one of the interesting ways in which you as a brand, as a business owner, can actually unlock access to newer audiences on social media is through creating viral content. And I think that is something that you would personally attest to, because you've got virality in your name. Your first name actually rhymes with viral. So what are your thoughts on SMEs and small scale entrepreneurs actually creating viral content as a
You
lever
want me
for
to take
growth?
that? Yeah, you want me to take that?
Yeah, please. Would love to hear your thoughts. Yeah.
So I think the most important thing in content is consistency.
Yeah.
Keep repeating it, and I consistently repeat it because people seem to not follow that. There is no formula in virality. A lot of people think that there is a formula in virality. I think that if you are very regular with your
Yeah.
content creation, which is consistent, and you're constantly listening to feedback, right? So I've been writing for 7 years, right? And I've had posts that have gone really viral. Like one of my posts went to 10 million people, one
Wow.
post, right? So it had all the ingredients and it just fit, right? But I wouldn't say I engineered the virality. How it came was because I had been writing for so long. I used compounding to improve my audience base, and I was very consistent in improving the quality of my content, right? And I think if you are very regular, there will be one time when that content piece will hit with everyone, right? So the one that became very viral for me, the two ones that became very viral for me, one was about how my mom, sacrificed everything and
Yeah.
brought.
I remember reading that post as well. It was a fantastic one. Yeah.
So it had all the ingredients. It was very emotional. It was
Yeah.
personal. It had a lesson, right? And generally, most of my stories are like this, right? They'll teach you something through the process, and you can relate to it. And I'll say that skill I learned over writing for 5 years continuously, right? I started writing 7 years ago, but I think I've been writing for 5 years every week. So the virality is through consistent effort. I would say that you can't just come up one day, hey, I got this amazing idea, let me write about it, right? So I had the distribution, I had the content, I had the story, right? So that came together. I think it's extremely important for businesses. It is how you will differentiate with others, especially when you're in a place where there is a lot of commoditization. Nike is not a company, it's a feeling, right? It evokes something in you. At the end of the day, if you look at an Adidas shoe and a Nike shoe, I don't think they're very different. But Nike, it will never talk about the shoe. It will always talk about the feeling, right? They will always show LeBron James, they'll always show Lionel Messi, they'll always show Ronaldo. They'll never show the shoe. If you ever notice any Nike ad, they will never have the shoe, right? And that's why I think these stories that they tell reinforces the brand, and it when you associate yourself with the brand, you feel something. The same thing with the iPhone, right? It makes you feel something. My parents joke with me that why the hell are you an Apple user? I mean, it's the same as an Android phone, but it is the brand, right? And they have leveraged these viral campaigns before digital was even available. I think one of the most viral campaigns for Apple was the 1984 Macintosh one, right? And they've consistently built on that.
Yeah.
So I think in a world where everything is becoming accessible, products are becoming commoditized, everyone can build the same thing. The stories and the feelings that you evoke are going to be your key differentiator. And the way to make viral content is just keep doing it regularly and it will click one day. I think that's my formula at least.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Aviral. That was pretty fascinating. The playbooks for creating viral content, there are no shortcuts. In summary, consistency, domino effect, the power of compounding, and of course, having your ears close to the ground and having a clear sense of the pulse of your audience. These are some of the secret mantras that the resident expert on creating viral content has to share. A quick shout out to the audience, shows your love, capture all of these and more. Takeaways from today's webinar, put it up on Twitter, tag us, use the hashtag unlock growth, and you stand a chance to win some fantastic goodies. I'm coming to you next, SHK. And before I do that, I think it's time for us to look at the third poll question for the day. If I can request the team to please put it up. And then I'll come to SHK for his predictions for the next 12 months. Third poll question, please, when you're ready. Yep. How should SMEs think about raising money for business growth? VC funding, working capital loans. I like the last option. No, thank you. I prefer to make my own money. Would be interesting to see how many people actually choose that. A lot of people are in fact choosing that, which is interesting. A lot of people are preferring to bootstrap and run their own business, Zerodha style. I'm a big fan of Nitin Kamath myself, and looks like we have a winner with the majority. Or do we have a twist in the tail? No, it's the last option. Most people are looking to bootstrap their business, which is again fairly interesting, a very interesting trend there.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, cool. Coming to you next, SHK, some predictions as we look ahead to the next 12 months for the digital ecosystem, for the fintech ecosystem, for the SME and the startup ecosystem in the country.
So I'll just carry forward from what Aviral said, right?
Sure.
That in this world today, right? See, if you look at 6-7 years back, right, when the likes of Flipkart and other startups came aboard, you need to invest a lot in building your own technology to provide a good experience to end consumers, right? But now today, with our infrastructure maturing on multiple fronts, right, be it on payments, on logistics, different kind of marketing tools being available, that is there, right? Now at least you are significantly on par with the larger brands that is there in terms of like what kind of tooling you have available, right? So you don't need to now say that we need to invest a lot in technology and trying to do it, right? So one thing I definitely see clearly is that as we have more democratization around these tools and there is lesser differentiation, right? How you position your brand and what the story that you tell, right, is going to be like significantly important. And what I mean by that, right, truly your brand today needs to stand for something, right? Like how Aviral talked about it, like today you see like Apple stands for privacy in a way, right? For us, like the whole Razorpay itself stands for entrepreneurs very strongly. We always bat for entrepreneurs, left, right, and center in every conversation. We're always for the that how can we support the entrepreneurial ecosystem do better and come out stronger at every turn that is there, right? So similarly, like I think going forward, a lot of SMEs will need to really articulate like what do they stand for, right? And it can be controversial, it can be it can be something counterintuitive. That's all okay, but the run of the mill stuff does not work as much anymore, right? And the more sophistication and the more specialization that we see for SMEs doing that in their marketing strategy, I think it'll be great for the whole SME entrepreneurial ecosystem. Beyond that, right, I think two elements that never goes away and will continue playing this very strong differentiator role is how do you support your customers, how do you serve your customers, right? How good are you able to deliver your customer support day in day out, and that trend will keep on playing. We have had standards of that being established in the last few years with multiple startups, right? But even going forward, we have seen so many stories coming out on Twitter of brands not doing well by customers and they have been taken to the cleaners again and again, right? So today, customers have a lot of voice on social media through this network that they have, right? So how you can leave a positive impression in the mind of customers through the support that you're providing, right? And doing right by the customers by intent at every step is again going to be like playing a significant role. And I think it's going to be super important in the coming months. I think last thing I would say, which I see like in a lot of entrepreneurs who have to learn that, right? Because, see, all of us, have most of us, right, in a way, have not operated things at scale, right? So, but the opportunity present, with the unbundling of large companies that Aviral talked about, right, and the whole digitization that is opening up a lot more problem statements that we can tackle, through different small businesses, right? So, how do you scale your traction, right? Getting initial few customers is extremely difficult, but you can still get that through your initial network that is there, through your friends group, through your contacts, right? But scaling your business efficiently with positive unit economics is going to be a significant trend. I think the whole era of marketing first growth and the whole era of like burning significant amount of money, while there will be few companies that will continue doing that, but largely and very broadly, we'll see a very healthy ecosystem of SMEs and startups focusing on unit positive growth that is there, right? And for that, most of the entrepreneurs really need to think through as to how they can scale their business in a very thoughtful manner, right? And have a very right strategy around it, right? So these are some of the things that I think are going to be important. But I'll add one more aspect that when the whole startup ecosystem started booming, we had like very the startups which are more focused on roti kapda makan types of thing, like you do your e-commerce, you order food, you manage transportation. These are all utility stuff, right? With these getting sorted, at least in tier 1 cities, I think we'll see penetration of that in different forms coming in tier 2 cities, right? But beyond that, I think we'll see a lot of aspirational products coming out in the ecosystem for every strata of society, right? I think we have already seen a great example of that in the whole cred story that is there, right? But it's an opportunity for every SME out there, right? That how can you create aspirational products which have real value, real story behind it, and appeal to your target customer base, right? Rather than just on on what value you are delivering, right? But the whole package around customer support, around the branding that you are doing, right? All of these need to come together in a very good way. I think our entrepreneurs need a lot of support for that. But somewhere I feel we are ready also to take advantage of this.
Very interesting, SSK, and thank you so much for your thoughts. And we're actually going to open out. We're going to take some questions from the audience. We've had a flood of questions coming in on Twitter. I'm just going to pick some of the most interesting ones, which I'm sure both of you will enjoy answering. The first one, and I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit, is something I'm sure, Aviral, you will enjoy answering. This is on EdTech itself. We've been talking a lot on EdTech, and I spoke about so many different EdTech entrepreneurs who use Razorpay. An Urdu, a teacher who conducts Urdu classes online, somebody who conducts painting classes online. I spoke to an entrepreneur recently who is looking to upskill students in Nagaland, right? Who's from Northeast India and is actually using Razorpay for actually collecting payments from the parents, which is very interesting. The question essentially is, if I were to paraphrase, is EdTech a bubble? We're seeing a huge boom in EdTech. Is that a bubble? Your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a funny thing about bubbles. They're never bubbles when people think they are, and they're bubbles when people don't think they are, right? So when everyone's saying it's a bubble, I'd rather say it's not. So I'll not go into the bubble part of things. Let me just try to answer what I see EdTech as. We are very privileged, right? And I understand my privilege, and all of us actually on this panel are very privileged to have got the education we did because of our privilege. There are so many people in this country who don't have that access, right? And I think fundamentally that is a problem educational technology is trying to solve. Bring that access to everyone in the country, not just someone who grew up in a tier 1 city, right? I'll go back to the time when I was in college. I actually did a startup before internet, all these things. We were an educational magazine for students in cities like Bhopal, which is not even a tier 2 city, I would say. It's a capital of a state, but it did not have the opportunities that a Bombay kid had, right? And I think EdTech is bringing the quality of teachers that would exist in a tier 1 city to everywhere in India, right? So fundamentally, they're solving that problem. I think one gap I see in most educational companies, technology companies right now, is that they're content businesses. They're just selling content, which is why a lot of people have this grouse that, hey, this is a bubble, I don't understand this, what is this, right? True education for me is when outcomes improve. So when you teach something, when somebody's end result after that is better, that's true education. And I think that wave of companies has started coming through. They're leveraging technology. I think the model for education is going to be hybrid. It's never going to be completely offline or completely online. I think teachers adopting technology is going to make them more productive, reach out to more students. And in general, education is such a big leveler and such a big accelerator for income that I generally don't feel that anything in edtech is ever enough. Right? I always think that there can be more. I feel the same with health tech and fintech, right? These are like fundamental needs that get people along the curve, that help them get better. And bubble or not, I really don't care. I see that there's a lot of work to be done, and there are a lot of good companies trying to do that. So there will be a cycle, there will be a time, in 2016, people were like, hey, edtech is the shittiest thing, I'm never going to touch it. And that's when Byju's was created, right? So I think that there'll be cycles, there'll be ups and downs, but in general, if you look at it with a 10-year horizon, it's all going to go up. It's going to be better than it is now. That's my view.
At least there's no such thing as not enough edtech. And India needs all the edtech that it can get. That essentially is what I'm hearing. And there's also this question on health tech, which I find interesting because I'm from a health tech background myself. And there is this question on mental wellness, which is coming up. Is that a potential opportunity area in India? And I think personally, I believe it's a great opportunity area. I think that is there is a lot of stigma associated with it. And I'm sure, I don't know, some quick thoughts from you, Aviral, before I go to SHK, if you don't mind, just on the space of health tech, because you spoke about health tech as well.
Right. So I think it's a very, like you said, stigmatized problem. And I think tech is going to help solve that, because a lot of people just don't want to go and meet someone, even if that's a stranger, to share their problems. I think technology will help people get out of the shell. And I think mental wellness is going to be a bigger problem right now. Like I mentioned, earlier, COVID has made us be in the situation that's so abnormal. I see a lot of people having difficulty coping, and I think it's a bigger problem because we are in a very unnatural environment. We are social beings. It's very weird, being in your house and meeting the same people again and again. I think it's a big problem. I think people should build on it. And I think there are a few companies that are doing some interesting work there, but I feel it's early days in India.
Yep. And it's a huge opportunity space. So for all of those startups which are looking to enter health tech, mental wellness could be an interesting space for you to occupy. Coming to SHK, I think that is an interesting question, which I'm again going to paraphrase a little bit. I see 2-3 questions having the same theme. So Razorpay, we end up making money, and I'm going to use the term we. At Razorpay, we end up making money when our customers make money, right? We get paid when our customers get paid. So what are some of the things that we do as an organization, as a brand, to make things easier for the average SME customer to collect payments from their end customers to improve their checkout conversion rates?
I think this is one of the fundamental things that we have done since day one, right? Because when we came on the scene, we saw that accepting payments is such a tedious effort for small businesses, and most of the solutions available are tailored to enterprises, right? Today, if I look at it, right, we have changed the situation so much in like past 5-6 years that today the whole onboarding process for customers, if they are in segments which are directly allowed and have no conflicts with the government policies and all, right, we are able to onboard them within less than a day. The whole integration piece that is there, right? We used to provide a single line of code for integration for go live. Now today you can go live with just by sending a payment link or putting a payment button that is there, or establishing a digital presence that is there, right? And we have a suite of products to help with accepting payments in various forms that is there. All of these products have seen tremendous growth in the SME sectors in past few years, especially like in the freelancers community and all, who are more and more looking to accept digital payments through various means and forms, right? And beyond this, I think now we are really pushing the envelope on supporting the businesses that we have through different kind of credit products, right? Because we are seeing that most of the SMEs need some sort of support in terms of capital for growth of the business. right? So how can you provide any credit support in terms of corporate credit card or any kind of cash advance or short-term credit line to help them keep growing their business, right? And in fact, during the pandemic, when most of the NBFCs kind of took a step back, we actually went aggressive in terms of the providing credit and grew our portfolio in a significant way, because we felt like this is the right opportunity for us to demonstrate that the data that we have with the business, right, the loyalty that the business has towards us in terms of accepting payment, we are able to pay that back in some sense through the support that we are providing on capital, right? And again, the whole company is built towards supporting entrepreneurs in terms of accepting payments, in terms of digitization through various means, through various channels, right? And one of the great things that I think we are doing well is running the whole education program for entrepreneurs as to how to think to different aspects of marketing and think to different aspects of digitization. So I think that brings in a huge efficiency boost for the whole business itself that is there.
Yeah, it's very interesting, SHK, and speak your customer's language, right? That sounds like a cliched phrase, but at Razorpay, just to build on top of what you just said, at Razorpay, we've actually allowed SME business owners to speak their end customers' language through our local vernacular checkout option as well, which has, believe it or not, improved checkout conversion rates by a jaw-dropping 15%. That's something which is very interesting as well. And I just thought I'll mention that in terms of the things that Razorpay has done to enable businesses to improve their checkout conversion rates and seamlessly receive funds from their end customers. It's been an engrossing discussion, and I think we can go on and on and on, but I'm sure all of us have things to do. Thank you so much, SHK, and thank you so much, Aviral, for taking time off, and a big thank you to the audience for actually taking time off. And we have a surprise gift for you, for all of you who've actually been through the entire webinar. We're going to give you 50,000 free credits, which will allow you to receive 50,000 rupees worth of payments from your end customers via the Razorpay ecosystem at 0 commission rates. So it's completely free. There are no commission rates attached to it. So the team has actually just put up the Typeform link. If you could just fill in your details in the link, we'll make sure that the 50,000 free credits is credited to your account within the next 24 hours. A big thank you to the audience once again, a big thank you to the panelists and to the team for actually setting this up. I wish all of you good health, stay safe, and look forward to a very exciting and a hugely successful financial year over the next 12 months. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Veda. Thanks, Aviral.
Thank you. Bye.